Leo, my radiant soul, what if I told you that a sacred meeting was just held in your name, and someone walked out of it in tears? No, this isn't a metaphor. This isn't symbolic fluff. Somewhere beyond what the eyes can see, in the dimension where truth holds more weight than words, and presence is louder than proof, a divine council gathered. And you, Leo, were the center of every whispered word, every glance, every reckoning. You weren't physically there, but make no mistake, you were the purpose. Someone tried to challenge your light. Someone tried to contain the fire that lives within you. But they walked away shaken, not because they lost a game, but because they finally understood they were never in control of what was never theirs to hold. Welcome to Eternal Mindfulness, where no message arrives by coincidence. If this video found you, it's because your soul was summoned to hear it. The truth is, Leo, the universe has seen you fighting quietly, holding your ground when no one else did, being misjudged as arrogant when all you were doing was standing tall in your truth. You've been burning with loyalty in a world that forgot how to honor it. You've been giving your heart where others only give conditions. And even when the world tried to dim your fire, you didn't retaliate, you didn't manipulate, you simply continued being the sun. And that, Leo, is exactly why divine justice is now moving in your favor. This is not just another horoscope. This is a confirmation of everything you suspected. Of everything your intuition whispered when no one else would listen. There was a moment just recently when spiritual forces, ancestors, guides, and higher energies held space to discuss you. Your soul. Your path. Your protection. And Leo, someone at that table, someone who once had power over your peace, realized they no longer hold it. That's why this message feels so personal. Because it is. Let me take a moment to thank you deeply for being here, for your time, your energy, your support. Every like, every comment, every subscription brings you closer to the heart of our growing family here at Eternal Mindfulness. And trust me, beloved Leo, you will want to stay with me until the very end of this video, because what the universe is preparing to reveal next will not only restore your power, it may shift your entire perception of what you thought you lost. So before we continue, tell me, what part of your soul pulled you here today? What are you seeking in this moment? And most importantly, are you ready to receive the truth? Drop a comment below to let me know you're here and that this message found you at the right time. Let's make this a space of awakening together. They saw your confidence and called it pride. They witnessed your consistency and labeled it stubbornness. But what they failed to recognize was the deep-rooted integrity guiding your every step. You didn't resist because of ego, you stood firm because something within you knew. Bending for the wrong reasons breaks more than bones, it fractures spirit. And so, you stayed rooted. Even when others misread your silence, dismissed your loyalty, or weaponized your kindness as weakness, you chose not to betray your essence just to make others comfortable. That choice, Leo, is what set you apart, not because it was easy, but because it was true. When people are faced with a presence as unwavering as yours, they often respond from their own unhealed places. Those who have never known true devotion mistake it for control. Those who are unfamiliar with honest fire confuse it with aggression. But you were never here to fit into their stories. You were here to embody your own one, written not in reaction, but in quiet defiance of being boxed in. Your refusal to collapse, even in moments of quiet devastation, became your most powerful prayer. And though it may have looked like you were being forgotten, what was really happening was something much deeper. You were being revealed to yourself. There is a teaching, quiet and profound, that speaks of choosing silence over resistance, stillness over chaos. Not out of defeat, but because that stillness generates clarity. It creates space not for revenge, but for return. The return to your dignity, to your worth, to your original self, before others projected their fear onto your fire. That's what your past has asked of you: not to harden, not to vanish, but to remain present, soft, strong. You are not here to be understood by everyone. You are here to live in alignment with the truth that needs no defense. So yes, you were underestimated. But you were never broken. Misread, perhaps. Misjudged, often. But never disconnected from the strength that lives in your stillness. And in that stillness, Leo, something remarkable has been growing, something that even those who misunderstood you will soon have no choice but to see. The power in your silence was never about absence, it was presence in its purest form. When others raised their voices to assert control, you chose to remain grounded, not because you lacked the strength to speak, but because you understood something they didn't. Real power does not beg to be heard. It emanates. You didn't need a throne to be a ruler. You didn't need to retaliate to be right. Your calm was not submission, it was clarity. The kind of clarity that only those who have walked through the fire without losing themselves can carry. You see, when a Leo stops roaring, it doesn't mean the lion has lost its courage. It means the lion has mastered restraint. And restraint, when chosen, is a form of refined power. Just as a flame doesn't always need to burn wildly to be felt, your energy has learned to focus itself, not to please or punish, but to protect your inner world. This stillness, often misunderstood by those who feed on conflict, is what has made you invisible to the chaos and visible to truth. You did not shrink to avoid the fight. You simply rose above it. And in doing so, you created space for a deeper kind of justice, one that doesn't arrive with noise, but with undeniable truth. There's an ancient understanding that what doesn't react is often what transforms. When the wind howls, the mountain doesn't scream back, it remains. Your choice to remain still, to observe without crumbling, allowed the storm to reveal itself without dragging you into it. That was not avoidance. That was mastery. And those who once misread your composure as weakness are slowly starting to see what it really was: a strength too deep to shake, too silent to manipulate. Your stillness held a mirror to those who tried to provoke you. It showed them not your vulnerability, but their own discomfort with grace they could not control. And in that reflection, a quiet kind of reckoning began. Not because you asked for it, but because your refusal to become what hurt you made the truth undeniable. You didn't win by force. You endured with elegance. And in that, Leo, you reminded the world that power, when truly yours, never has to shout. The light within you has never needed to prove itself, it simply reveals. What you carry, Leo, is not a flame that flickers for attention, but a quiet, steady burn that exposes everything it touches. The moment you stopped trying to explain yourself, the energy around you began to shift. You didn't need to confront, to correct, or to retaliate. What you did instead was far more powerful. You remained honest. You remained intact. And that truth, unmoved, untamed, and unbothered became a mirror too bright for deception to survive. There is a natural unfolding that happens when energy aligns. When someone acts with manipulation or force, believing they can control the outcome or bend another's path, they forget one essential truth: every action plants a seed. And the nature of that seed determines what eventually returns. You didn't have to punish anyone. You didn't have to design a consequence. Your very presence, anchored in truth, allowed reality to do what it always does. It brings everything back home. When the light is real, it doesn't chase shadows, it simply makes them visible. This is what people often forget. The most powerful form of accountability doesn't come through vengeance, it comes through stillness. When the mind no longer clings, when the heart no longer seeks revenge, a clarity arises that cuts through illusion. The ones who thought they had the upper hand now find themselves exposed not by your words, but by their own echo. The light within you didn't grow to blind others, it grew to awaken you. And in doing so, it became impossible for others to keep lying to themselves or to you. There's a reason why the quietest trees often have the deepest roots. You become that, rooted, steady, luminous. And while others may have tried to sway you, shake you, or control you, all they did was reveal their own imbalance. You didn't fight fire with fire, you simply held your light so steadily that their chaos had no fuel to feed on. In this way, Leo, your very being became the karma. Not as punishment, but as illumination. Because the truth doesn't need to scream to be felt, it just needs to stand long enough to be undeniable. What they tried to take from you was never truly yours to lose. Titles, recognition, opportunities, these are only reflections of value, not the value itself. And though it may have felt, at moments, like you were being stripped of everything you'd built, what remained untouched was the core of who you are. Your loyalty. Your dignity. The fire in your spirit that refuses to flicker, even when the world tries to blow it out. That's what they couldn't touch, not because they didn't try, but because it lives beyond their reach. What lives in the soul cannot be stolen by hands that only understand possession. There is a deeper form of resilience that's born when what we once relied on is removed. When applause fades, when titles dissolve, when even love seems conditional, we come face to face with our essence. And for you, Leo, that moment didn't destroy you, it revealed you. You didn't fall because your foundation was never built on approval. It was built on something ancient and unshakable, your inner knowing that you were never defined by what others could validate. That knowledge, however quiet, is what kept you standing. And in standing, you became undeniable. There's a quiet power in not collapsing when others expect you to. In not chasing closure or begging for understanding. That calm endurance, measured, steady, nobilize what others fear most. Because when someone cannot break your center, they realize they never had any real power to begin with. You did not retaliate. You did not lose yourself to resentment. And that is what made you not just strong but free. Sometimes, the greatest strength is simply not becoming what tried to wound you. When you remain upright, with your heart open and your integrity intact, you become a force that requires no defense. And though they may not say it, those who tried to diminish you now live with the quiet recognition that they were never capable of dimming your light. Your radiance doesn't come from being needed, it comes from being real. And that, Leo, is something no one can take away. You were never meant to carry your pain as a punishment, but to alchemize it into wisdom. What once broke you open is now the very place where your light shines through. Survival was never the final destination, it was only the threshold. And now, with every breath, every choice to keep moving, you've crossed into something far more powerful than survival. You become the evidence that healing is possible. The walking reminder that wounds don't have to turn to walls, and that softness, when protected by clarity, can become a force stronger than anger. The fire inside you no longer burns to defend, it illuminates. This is the silent shift that happens when the soul matures. You stop looking backward for apologies that never came, and instead turn forward to become the compassion that others never offered. Your presence no longer begs to be understood, it simply becomes a lighthouse. And not everyone will be ready to look at that light. Some will still hide from it. But others, those who feel lost in the fog of their own heartbreak, will see you and remember what's possible. You don't have to fix them. You don't have to save them. Just by standing where you are, whole in your truth, you become a path they can choose to follow. There's a timeless teaching that says when one awakens, it ripples out into the collective. Your quiet transformation, built not on show, but on sincerity, is already echoing far beyond what you can see. You're no longer defined by what happened to you. You're now defined by what you've chosen to create from it. And what you've created is not only strength, but safety. A sanctuary for others who are still trying to find themselves after losing so much. That's why you're still here. Not because you were forgotten, but because you were chosen to hold a steady flame in a world still learning how to honor the fire. You are no longer just the one who was hurt. You are the one who rose and stayed soft. And that makes you more than a survivor. That makes you a guide. If you've made it this far, Leo, that means something inside you already knew this message was never just about what happened to you. It's about what is awakening within you now. You are not the same person who once waited for validation, who once wondered if being too bold, too loyal, or too different made you unworthy. You have walked through rejection, through silence, through moments where your strength felt like a curse instead of a gift. And yet, here you are. Still standing. Still glowing. Still open to healing, and somehow more powerful than ever. Not because the world crowned you, but because you remembered that your light never needed permission to shine. What would happen if, starting today, you no longer asked yourself if you were enough and instead asked, what will I build with all that I already am? What if your next step wasn't about proving anything to anyone, but simply living fully from the truth you've earned? You are not here to convince the world of your value. You are here to embody it. In your calm. In your fire. In your refusal to collapse into bitterness. You've been quietly rewriting the story of strength. Not the kind that shouts, but the kind that roots deeply, forgives gently, and keeps its heart open anyway. So take a moment and breathe with that. Really breathe with it. The universe has not overlooked you. In fact, it's been moving pieces behind the scenes for longer than you know. And now, the invitation is here, not to fight for your place, but to stand in it. Fully. Proudly. Without shrinking, without needing applause, and without waiting for anyone to finally get it. You already are it. I want to thank you, truly, for sharing this moment with me. Your presence, your courage to reflect, to listen, to feel, that means everything. Every comment you write, every like, every subscription is more than digital interaction. It's energy, intention, and the building of a collective field where messages like this can keep finding those who need them most. If this message found you at the right time, if something inside you shifted even just a little, I'd love for you to comment below. Tell me what part spoke to your soul, or simply say, I'm ready to rise. Because when you speak, you anchor it. This is eternal mindfulness, and I'm honored to walk this journey with you. Keep choosing your light, Leo. Not because the world asked for it, but because it's always been yours to give.